Today I'm going to bring Minecraft items to life by turning them into mobs. And I'm also going to make a habitat for each of them. But the first item I'm going to turn into a mob is a bucket with an axolotl. To make this mob, I'm going to start by creating the bucket. I'm going to create a cube that's bigger than the other one. And the bucket will look like this. Inside it, I'm going to make the axolotl. So here's its body. I'm going to make the head, add a few more details, create a little paw for it, and duplicate it. The axolotl model is almost ready. I made this model like this because I want to make a leg that comes out of the top of this bucket, like this here. Now I'm going to create another cube turned this way, make a paw, create a toe, and duplicate the rest. Now, our mob's leg is ready. To do the same thing on the other side, I'm going to select all of these parts and duplicate them. Now, our axolotl mob in the bucket is ready. I can find this mob inside this lush cave near other axolotls. This axolotl in the bucket is like the protector of these other axolotls. Take a look at this, guys. Just look at his hand. There's a really cool gradient here. The bucket turned out really well, and as you can see, it's clear that he's a peaceful mob, guys. He doesn't do anything. I can hit him and nothing will happen. However, there's one thing that will make him very ferocious if I come here and grab an axolotl from the bucket. And as you can see, the axolotl in the bucket is already starting to come running after me. Oh no, get out of here, axolotl. Guys, he gets very ferocious if I steal an axolotl from him. Oh no, he runs a lot and takes a lot of life. So, as you've seen, guys, he's a peaceful mob. But if you try to fight the axolotls, you can be sure that he'll become very hostile towards you. To give you an idea of how strong this mob is, I'm going to put a pillager here and an axolotl mob in the bucket. And I'm going to make the two fight. Just look how he's going to kill this pillager. Guys, he finished off the pillager in just 3 hits. That's really fast. I'm going to spawn another one here. Go on, pillager. And nothing will happen because this mob is very strong. And besides being very strong, I forgot to mention that this mob is very beautiful. Look at his leg. It's really cool. That bucket that's kind of tipped over and the axolotl here in front, that's really good. Comment on the score you give this mob here because honestly, my score is 9 out of 10. And since he's a very beautiful mob, of course he deserves a habitat to live in. So that's why I'm going to start by marking the place where I'm going to make this habitat for him. And I'm going to do it in the same style I made these other habitats here. And for those who don't remember, I made all of them in this video here, where I improved the Minecraft mobs, but I can't lose focus. Let me finish marking the size of the habitat here. I'm going to dig some blocks down. I'm going to replace all the ground blocks with sand, and the wall blocks I'm going to replace with clay and moss blocks. And on top of that, I made a pool, and here I put some rocks. I did that because I'm going to spread moss blocks on the ground. In addition, I made this tree grow, and to finish, I'm going to put a fence around the entire habitat, and the habitat is finally ready. The grade I give it is 8 out of 10. Now, let's move on to the next item that I'm going to turn into a mob, which will be the crossbow. First, I'm going to start by making the 2 legs of this mob. Now I'm going to make this middle part of his body. I'm going to create a cube up here to be the head, and behind the mob, I want to make a crossbow. So that's why I'm going to make this cube like this. Now, I'm going to create a cube facing this way, another cube facing the other way, and this one here will be that line that gives propulsion to the arrow. The 3D model of our mob is ready. To make the texture, first, I'm going to start by painting this top part of the crossbow brown. I'm going to paint the mob's body with a slightly darker brown, and now I'm going to make a gradient from the lightest gray to the darkest gray for the line. To make our mob's body look even more beautiful, I'm going to make the texture as if it were wood. I'm going to draw his eyes and mouth as if he were a creeper. I'll add some more details to his face, and after that, I just need to add a few more details to our crossbow. And this is how our 3D mob turned out here in Minecraft. It turned out really cool. I even added some harpoons behind it. Actually, these are arrows, but they look like harpoons because they are so big. Not to mention that this mob actually looks like a creeper. It looks like a wooden creeper or something. And to be honest, this mob turned out really cool. Behind it, I made this crossbow and it turned out really good. Even though it turned out simple, the 3D model is incredible. I give it a 7 out of 10. And for those of you who are wondering if this mob is a peaceful or hostile mob, here is the answer. It will keep shooting infinite arrows at you and will try to expel you. Normally, this mob will walk in a pack and will protect each other. Of course, there is one shooting arrow at the other, but that doesn't matter. If you kill this mob, it will drop this crossbow that seems to be common, but it is not. Every time you click, you shoot the arrow quickly. Check this out. I shoot a lot of arrows and they all come out really fast. I can finish off this horse in just a few seconds. This works for any mob, including this fake RedDude too. But since I've already tested the mob and its power, now it's time to make the habitat for it to live in. So I'll start by defining the size of this habitat. Now I'm gonna dig a hole, replace the wall blocks with spruce planks and stipped spruce log. On the ground, I'm going to alternate between grass block and podzol. I'm going to plant some grass here, and in addition, I'm going to place some targets for our mob to train on. And this is the final result of our habitat. Although simple, I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. Let's move on to the next item that I'm going to give life to, which will be the Totem of Undying. I'm going to start by creating our mob with the leg. Now, I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to create this giant cube to be his chest. I'm going going to make his arm, and it's going to be giant. I'm going to create a cube up here to be his head, and as you can see, the Totem of Undying has a big nose. So I'm going to do the same thing here on our model. To finish, I'm going to make an eyebrow and then another eyebrow here. To make the texture, first I'm going to start painting everything yellow. I'm going to make his eyebrow with a very light brown. Now, I'm going to use green to make his eye. To texture his arm, I'm going to start by adding some lines like this. After that, I added some more details to the arm. To make the leg, it was the same thing. I added some darker lines and some lighter ones. After spending a good amount of time texturing the chest, this is how it ended up in Minecraft. It really does look like the Totem of Undying. I put the two next to each other so you can see the comparison. Look, his nose is exactly the same. Here are his eyebrows, which I also made, but here I made them as realistic as possible. This mob here turned out really well. Although he seems angry, he's not really. He's only like that because the pillagers locked him inside the mansion. But from the moment you break the bars and free him, he'll be very happy and we'll give you a Totem of Undying and a Sword of Immortality as a gift. Every time you use this sword, you'll gain regeneration and absorption. I almost forgot to say, but every time this mob finds a pillager, he makes sure to finish them off once and for all. And since he's such a nice mob, it's only fair that I make a special habitat for him. As you already know, first I'm going to define the size of this habitat. I'm going to dig down a few layers, and I'm going to make the walls and the floor with gold blocks. Also, I'm going to make some pillars out of emerald blocks. I'm going to surround the entire habitat with these emerald walls. And on top of that, I'm going to scatter a lot of money on the ground. This is the final result of our habitat. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10 rating, and the mob is a 9 out of 10. Let's move on to the next item that I'm going to turn into a mob, which is going to be Glowberries. I'm going to start by creating this mob with a leg, and it's going to be really small. Now, I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to create this huge cube to be the Glowberries, and on top of the Glowberries, I'm going to make this cube here. Now, I'm going to create a leaf like this, make another cube diagonally like this, and add another detail on top of this cube. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, but this berries here is going to be a little bigger. Of course, we're going to add more details on top. To finish the 3D model, I just need to make one arm, the other, and here's the base of our model. To make the texture, first I'm going to start by painting everything orange and adding some shading details. I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other berries, but on a smaller scale. I'm also going to create the texture for this little part here and the texture for the leaf that's on top. Now, I'm going to paint the arm and legs green. Right after that, I spent a good amount of time adding more shading effects. I made the eyes and mouth, and this is how the Glowberries mob turned out. He looks really cool. Look at him. He has a laughing face. So far, this is my favorite mob. He's really cool, and he looks really good. Just look at his arms. And these other Glowberries here, too. Man, this mob looks really cute. The only way to find this mob in the wild is by going into a lush cave, and he'll spawn on the ground. For those who don't know, this mob is nothing more than an evolution of those Glowberries. It's as if it had undergone a transmutation and turned into a real mob. It came to life. He's also a peaceful mob, but if you kill him, all the glowing berries in the cave will disappear. And a cave that was once alive will now be completely dark. And since our Glowberries mob doesn't have a home to live in, it's time to make a habitat for him. So I'm going to start by marking the size of this habitat. I'm going to remove some layers of the ground. I'm going to put moss all over the ground, and I'm going to replace the wall blocks with deep slate. On top of the habitat, I'm going to make a glass roof. Now, I'm going to put the Glowberries plant on the roof, and in the end, it will look like this. I'm going to put some wood around this entire area. In addition, I'm going to put up some pillars, and I'm going to put up some fences around the entire habitat. And this is how our new mob's house looks. The rating I give the construction is 9 out of 10, and the rating I give our mob is 10 out of 10. Comment your rating below. Now let's move on to the next item, which will be the shield. First, I'm going to start creating our mob's foot and leg. I'll duplicate them to the side. Now, I'm going to create this cube here to be his belly. This other one will be his chest, and on top of the chest, I'm going to create another cube, which you'll soon understand why I did this. On top of this cube, I'm going to create a slightly smaller cube to be his head. Now, I'm going to make his shoulder, the rest of his arm, and on top of the arm, I'm going to make a cube like this to be his protection. Now, just select everything and duplicate. To make the texture, first I'm going to start painting all the parts where I want to have a shield texture brown. I'm going to paint the edge of each of these cubes gray, and since I have the base of the colors, I'm going to start texturing the shield to make it look more realistic. And after a lot of work, this is what the final result of our mob transformed into a shield looks like. This turned out really good. I simply transformed the shield into a small warrior golem, and you can see that it has several shield elements on its arm, chest, and even its helmet. Comment below what you thought of this mob, because I really thought it turned out really well. In fact, even the color of this mob turned out amazing. To tell you the truth, the only thing I didn't like very much were its eyes, which looked really strange. In fact, it looks like it's a noob mob, but otherwise it turned out really nice. I even did the details on the nail on the shield at the back, which turned out really well. Unlike the other mobs, this one is a hostile mob. It will attack you at all times. So you have to be very careful around it. Oh no, I better get out of here. But if by chance you manage to defeat this mob, it will drop this shield. So far, it seems to be a simple shield. But every time I click on it, look, I get a protection boost. In other words, this will help you escape from any battle. Look, there's another shield mob here. I just need to click with this shield here and I'll run away from it. Guys, this is really good. Look, I just need to click a few times and I'll get a boost to go wherever I want. In fact, I think I can even fly with it. Without a doubt, this is the best item that the mob can drop for you. And since the shield mob gave me such a good item, it's time to make a really good habitat for it too. To define the size of the habitat, I'm going to use this tool that breaks everything at once. I'm going to replace the wall blocks with wood. On the ground, I'm going to alternate between stone bricks and polished andesite. I'm going to surround the entire habitat with this stone brick wall. Finally, I also made a fighting ring in the middle of the habitat. The end result of this was really good. Even though I didn't put many things here on the ground, the score I give this habitat is 8 out of 10, and for the mob, it's 9.5. Let's go to the last item that I'm going to turn into a mob, which will be the spyglass. First, I'm going to start making his leg. I'm going to duplicate this cube. This will be his head. On the side, I'm going to make his arm, and on the other side too. I'm going to create a cube like this to be his eye, and I'm going to create a slightly smaller cube to be his other eye. On the top of his head, I'm going to create a giant cube like this, and on top of it, I'm going to create a slightly smaller cube. And this is how the 3D model of our mob looks. Although it's simple, I think it's going to look cool when it comes to creating the texture. To make the texture, I started painting his eye, and I wanted to imitate the spyglass texture. I added some details to his hair and did some shading effects on his body. And this is how the final result of this mob turned out. Guys, he's really funny. I really liked how the top part of his head turned out. I made his arms inspired by this part here, which is the binocular part. To tell the truth, I didn't even know how I was going to make this mob, but although it seems like a harmless mob, even a peaceful mob in fact, it is not. If you try to get close to it, it will attack you and even kill you. But if by chance you manage to kill it, it will give you a darkness effect. That way, you won't be able to see anything far away. Although it is an extremely bad mob, I need to make a habitat for it. And I will make it exactly in this place here. I will replace the floor blocks with wool and brown concrete powder, and I will make the wall with yellow blocks. I will place blue stained glass pane around the entire habitat, and here inside, I will place some decorations, such as these paint buckets. In the middle, I will place a spyglass. Finally, this habitat is ready. The score I give him is 6 out of 10, and for mob, it is also 6 out of 10. Comment your score below and enjoy watching this video that is appearing here on the screen.